Hi, my name is Shannon Shea, and I'm a special effects makeup artist. I am also a special effects makeup coordinator. I've worked on a lot of films, from Aliens and Predator up to the new Netflix Lost in Space television series that I was fortunate enough to coordinate all of the construction of the robot for the television show. But today I'm here to talk about a film that is very near and dear to my heart. It's Jurassic Park. And it's 25 years ago. Whew. Seems like yesterday. Anyway, it's an interesting story. I have always been a lifelong dinosaur fanatic. I loved dinosaurs ever since I was a little kid and saw the original 1933 King Kong. And so being obsessed with dinosaurs over the years and coming out to Hollywood to work in special effects from my hometown of Louisiana was, or New Orleans, Louisiana. It's very odd because everyone thought I was crazy. You know, I had this obsession with dinosaurs and monsters and things, and I worked very hard. I don't know what to say. I worked on my artwork, and I worked on my technical skills, and every time I had a chance to improve, I did, and learned a lot from some very talented people, including Stan Winston. Now, I went to work for Stan in 1985 on Aliens. I was a mold maker at the time, and I worked alongside of Matt Rose, and then eventually Steve Wang, who came aboard during Invaders from Mars, which kind of dovetailed out of Aliens. And then the three of us, after Monster Squad, coordinated Predator. And it was after Predator that Stan made an offer for me to be a permanent member of his crew, and I accepted. And stuff happened here and there. We worked on different pictures like Leviathan, and then I went away and worked on Dances with Wolves. I coordinated some Buffalo construction for Dances with Wolves. And I came back to Stan's on Terminator 2. But prior to coming back, I was on Child's Play 2. I was a puppeteer with Chucky. And I was working with another dinosaur fan and really amazing artist, Mike Tersick. And we were given the unpublished manuscript of Jurassic Park by a guy named Greg Nicotero. And Greg got it from Castle Rock because apparently they were in a bidding war with Amblin and Universal Studios, and they lost, and they gave the manuscript to Greg Nicotero, who read it and gave it to Mike Tersick and I, and we read it, and of course, being dinosaur fanatics, you know, we lost our minds. And we knew they were going to make it into a film. So it was during the making of Terminator 2 that we asked Stan, "Hey Stan, have you heard about Jurassic Park?" And he hadn't heard about it yet. But we were working on the T-1000 effects for Terminator 2, and Stan walked up to us one day and said, "How would you like to make dinosaurs?" And we knew right then and there it was Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park started out a little slowly. There was a lot of design work. I mean, when you're going to basically present dinosaurs to the public in a way that had never been seen before, kind of trying to meet their expectations was huge. So a lot of people, and I'm not saying this to cause a fight, I'm just telling you the truth, the way that it happened. We didn't, even though we knew a lot about the contemporary paleontological theories about dinosaurs, and because Mike Tersick and I were huge fans, and I mean, my collection of dinosaur paraphernalia at the time was immense. I had, newspaper articles and magazines and books and videotapes that, with interviews about dinosaurs, because, I'm crazy. And but that's not what Spielberg was saying. I mean, Steven Spielberg said, we really have to meet what audiences expect dinosaurs to look like. And it's interesting because if you think about what Jurassic Park is, Jurassic Park isn't going back 165 million years, you know, to see dinosaurs, or 65 million years, excuse me, to go see dinosaurs. It's basically a company, a corporation that has taken, you know, largely incomplete dinosaur DNA, and using, you know, other animal DNA has manipulated the DNA to get what people expect dinosaurs to, or accept what dinosaurs look like. I mean, it's said in the book, it's said in Jurassic Park 3, that, you know, these aren't real dinosaurs. I mean, they are manufactured dinosaurs. I mean, I recall in the book, they even have, you know, little patent numbers on them, you know, microscopic patent numbers. That's how you know that the dinosaurs belong to InGen. So it's kind of a, I don't know how to say it. So it's kind of, we were mimicking, art imitates life, or life imitates art, I suppose, in this case, where we really knew we had to meet the expectations of the public. So Crash McCreary, who was Stan's illustrator, really started off doing some very detailed drawings of dinosaurs. And I know he started with the Tyrannosaurus Rex. And so without any input from anyone, he drew this very, very bird-like Tyrannosaurus Rex. It was beautiful. I really loved it. It was running, and it was very, you know, just very animated. And then he set out to draw some raptors. And I remember Mike Tersick and I were showing Crash the book, The Making of King Kong, which was the making of the 1933 King Kong, not the making of the 1976 King Kong, or whatever it was. It was there were illustrations by, you know, Willis O'Brien and Mario Larinaga and oh gosh, what was the guy's name? Byron Crabb, who they had a real definitive style where they would use darks towards the viewer, and as within the frame of the picture, as you went away from the viewer, things got lighter and lighter and lighter, you know, which gave the illusion of depth. And Crash really loved that and started working that into his illustrations. You can see it in the T-Rex in the jungle with his foot up in the air. It's really, it has that real kind of old-fashioned King Kong look. But we were still working on Terminator 2 while Crash was drawing dinosaurs, and it became kind of like this back and forth between, you know, Steven Spielberg and Stan Winston and Crash to kind of start honing in this T-Rex. And then at the end of Terminator 2, Mike Tersick was picked to sculpt a 5th scale T-Rex maquette. And I was asked to assist Mike. So Mike and I started off, everyone else in the studio had been given some time off, and it was basically Mike Tersick and I in the studio and a big pile of Roma Plastilina #2. Mike started off by sculpting the skull of the Tyrannosaurus Rex in a hard Chavant clay, so that once he had that basic shape of a T-Rex skull in there, and the teeth and everything else, then he set out to sculpt the flesh on top of it. My job, really, by and large, was bulking out muscle shapes. You know, we start off roughing out a sculpture, then we refine the muscle shapes, and then we detail them. So while Mike was concentrating on the head and the arms and things, I was concentrating on the body and the legs and the tail, and just, you know, making sure it's a long process. And Mike and I must have sculpted on that T-Rex, 5th scale T-Rex, it must have been, I'm going to say 5 weeks maybe, just he and I in there, and Stan would come in and he would make comments here and there, here and there. And then the project was put on hold, and we started Batman Returns. So Jurassic Park was put on hold, and next thing we know, we're up to our armpits in penguins for Batman Returns. And it was during Batman Returns, it was during the construction of the penguins, that the Jurassic Park started up again. And we went right back to work on Jurassic Park. And I really worked primarily on a sequence that was ultimately cut from the film, which was the baby Triceratops. There was a scene where Lex the girl, in the original script it was reversed. The little boy was older than the little girl. And there was a scene where the little girl was going to ride the Triceratops. And then they switched it, because they made the girl older than the boy, and then the boy was going to ride the baby Triceratops. And we were going to do it with two puppets. There was going to be one puppet that was puppeteered from beneath, and it could, sway, and it could, we could kind of, underneath the stage, move its legs and kind of give it a little walk cycle. And then there was another one that was kind of, how to say it, it was like just kind of a floppy one that we were going to use for a scene where it, was tumbling, it like trips and tumbles. And that was it. But I was literally 2 weeks away from finishing when they pulled the plug. And that was the bad news. The good news is that what that did was it freed me up, and I got to work on a lot of the other dinosaurs in the shop. I worked on pretty much every dinosaur to some extent or another, some more than others. I mean, it was tough not to be involved with the Tyrannosaurus Rex because it was so huge, and we all were involved with running all the foam latex and getting all the skins ready and all that other stuff. And then I got to go to Hawaii with the sick Triceratops, which by and large was Joey Orozco sculpted the sick Triceratops. It came down to, they were like key artists on different dinosaurs. So Mike Tursick obviously was the key artist on the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Joey Orozco was the key artist on the sick Triceratops. Chris Swift was the key artist on the Raptors. Shane Mahan was the key artist on the Spitter. Paul Mejias sculpted the Gallimimus maquette. I don't believe we sculpted a Parasaurolophus, but Andy Schoenberg was in charge of the Brachiosaur. And those were the dinosaurs that we did for Jurassic Park. And listen, you can go all over the internet and you can find, from the Stan Winston School behind the scenes of building the Tyrannosaurus Rex, you can see behind the scenes of building the Brachiosaurs and the Raptors and everything else. So I'm not going to go into detail about all of that. What I was asked to kind of tell a story, and I've got so many Jurassic Park stories there, and they're pretty funny. But the one that I want to tell today has to do with the Tyrannosaurus Rex. So we were at Warner Brothers, because there wasn't a soundstage available at Universal Studios that was large enough to house this giant dinosaur puppet, and they built a set of the T-Rex paddock, and they had big rain towers, so the rain was coming down, and we had this big Tyrannosaurus Rex, and the vehicles were there, and of course all the actors are there, and Spielberg, it was amazing to watch him work because he moved very fast. He knew exactly what he wanted to shoot. We shot exactly until he felt he had what he had, and we moved on. So it wasn't like, productions that I've also been on where, you shoot the same thing 20, 30 times, until everyone feels comfortable and they move on. We would shoot like 3 takes and he'd go, next shot, 3 takes, go. He was so fast and so professional and really impressive to watch. But back in those days, this is 1992 that we're filming, there were no cell phones. Like, people didn't have just cell phones. And in those days, they used to have what they called a production table. So there was like a table set up where the first ADs or the second ADs would have all of their paperwork and things, and there were 2 phones. And those phones were production phones. They were meant to be used, for production or if there's an emergency. So we're filming, and there's a phone call, and one of the ADs picks it up, and they call me over and they tell me there's an emergency. Well, it's not one of the things you want to hear. There's an emergency. So I pick up the phone, and it's my wife, Tracy, on the phone. And I go, what's going on? Well, she stopped production. I mean, everyone's just stopped because they hear emergency at the house, fire, who knows what is going on. My daughter was she was about 3 at the time. So it could have been one of 100 horrible things that you can imagine. So I pick up the phone, everyone's looking at me, and I go, hello? And it's my wife, Tracy, and she says there's a mouse in the house. So I'm holding the phone, I'm looking at everyone, and I don't know what to say. I mean, this is a multi-million-dollar production. And, I mean, I think it's kind of like, $100,000 a day shooting, and now everyone is stopped because there's an emergency in the house. So I put my hand up on the phone, and I said, I can't do anything about this right now. I will pick up a mouse trap when I come home. and she was very upset. So I hang up the phone, and everyone's kind of like, you know, what happened? Did your house burn down? You know, is your child okay? And I went, there's a mouse in the house? And everyone broke out laughing, thank God. Everyone broke out laughing. And we went back to work. Well, I went home, and I found my wife and my daughter were both sitting on the back of the sofa. Like, you know, they weren't sitting, they were up on the sofa. And I had brought some traps home, so I set some traps. So the next day I get home from shooting, and Tracy's like this, and she goes, I think you got him. And I open up the cabinet, and there's this mouse, and I am not kidding you. It was this big. It was a little, tiny little fur ball, and you could see the indentation where the mouse trap had snapped his nose. And I felt horrible. This little guy, you know, poor guy. And I didn't know what to do with it, so I figured I'm just going to throw it out the door. So I put a cup over it and a piece of cardboard, and I open up the door, and my neighbor's cat is just looking at me. And I just went, good luck, and I threw the mouse out the house. Later on I saw the cat was sitting there with the mouse's tail sticking out of its mouth. So I guess in a way I didn't kill a mouse as much as I fed a cat. I don't know, but that was a pretty crazy story. Jurassic Park was an enormous honor to work on, especially in the capacity that I was able to work on. And like I said, I got to puppeteer on the T-Rex, on the 6 Triceratops, on the Raptors, on the Spitter. I didn't get to on the Brachiosaur, unfortunately. That was shot while I was still in the shop working on some other dinosaurs. But it was you know, for a dinosaur fan, it was certainly one of the zeniths of my career, one of the real high points of my career. I'm extremely proud to be associated with that film, and I'm so happy that people are such fans of that they've created more dinosaur fans, because you know, when I was growing up, being a dinosaur fan, we were very few and far between, trust me. And I still, to this day, I mean, I still make dinosaurs, I still paint dinosaurs. Every June I get together with dinosaur fans on the internet, and we do 30 days of dinosaurs where we're all drawing dinosaurs for 30 days. It seems like it would be a really easy thing to do, a dinosaur a day, but it's actually a little more difficult than you would think. And if you are on Instagram, that's what we do. Hashtag 30 Days of Dinosaurs. This June we will be doing it. So in closing, I'd like to say thank you, kamsamnida. Thank you for having me tell you a Jurassic Park story or two. And I'm Shannon Shea, and it was a pleasure to address you all today. And thanks so much, and I'll see you later. Bye.